This week, The Last of Us tries to answer the question, has anything good happened in Kansas City? Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Your Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 4, Please Hold On to My Hand, which premiered on HBO Max on February 5th, 2023. It's the fourth episode in The Last of Us series. It follows Joel and Ellie on their trek to try to get Ellie to the Fireflies in Wyoming, and my hot take is, I think you should watch it. Like, the series is fantastic. Every episode has been great, and this is no exception. This is a different kind of episode than the previous ones, but I still loved it. I love that this has a little bit more excitement, but still plenty of suspense and a ton of heart. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about the episode, a few things I liked, one thing I didn't like, and briefly talk about the ending. So there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off when I get there. I will give you clear indication when that is. It'll be in the things I didn't love. Before that, you can watch it and I'll keep everything vague. So in this week's episode of The Last of Us, you have Joel and Ellie still trying to make their way to Wyoming to get Ellie to Joel's brother Tommy in the hopes that he will then be able to get her to the Fireflies. Unfortunately, they're forced to take a detour in Kansas City that leads to some other surprises and some unexpected situations. So, things I liked about this episode. The first is, look, the production values. This series has been fantastic, and I love the way this episode started. It started with Ellie in this like bathroom that is kind of run down, and you just have like dust and pollen falling from the ceiling. Everything looks overgrown, everything looks abandoned, and it is just so well done. Like, throughout this episode, you get to see a lot more urban environments, you get to see the road, you get to see some cities, and everything is just so well constructed. Everything is so kind of well abandoned, overgrown. Cities look deserted, cities look kind of like thrown together, and this entire series has just had this from the start. But every episode, you notice something else that they've done just so well. The second thing I loved is the action. Look, we finally get a little bit of action. It's not a ton, but it's kind of a taste of what I imagine is going to come. You get a little bit more of an exciting scene. You get a little bit of suspense as they have to avoid something. And so you get an episode that's a little bit more exciting and a nice kind of contrast with what happened in the last episode. The last episode was super heartfelt, very kind of touching. This episode is a little bit more exciting and a little bit more action oriented. The third thing I loved is the storytelling. The storytelling is really well done. What I loved is that nothing is spoon-fed to the viewer. Like, you get the information you need, but it's not obviously told to you. Like, we find out they're in Kansas City, not when they first pull up, or not from like some sort of like thing at the bottom of the screen that tells you. We find out because it's kind of naturally worked into their conversation. And also, there are lots of key points about characters in this episode that are dropped just in the conversation. There's nothing like specific that's called out to you. There's no like primer, or there's no like obvious education of the viewer. Everything is kind of dropped in conversation and dropped in context clues. The fourth thing I loved is Melanie Lynskey. She's a new character in this episode. She's a fantastic actor. I love Melanie Lynskey, and I'm really glad that she is now a part of The Last of Us, and I get to see her at least in this episode. Who knows, maybe more, but she has a very interesting character. It's very different from other roles that she's in. It's really fun to see her as a boss, as the boss lady, and in a more sinister role. So going to things I didn't love, and like I mentioned, there will be spoilers here. If you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off now. But I'm only going to briefly touch upon it. So, things I didn't love about this episode: the length slash the ending. The length of this episode is about 45 minutes, and it ends on a cliffhanger. So it feels like it's a little bit shorter based on the past episodes, and also maybe they could have lengthened it out and not had it end on a cliffhanger. Basically, what happens is, when Joel and Ellie get to Kansas City, they're blocked. The tunnel that they need to go into is blocked. So they try to go around, and when they go around, they're ambushed. Now, this leads to a firefight where Joel has to take out a couple people. Ellie ends up helping, and they take out a total of 3 people. They run away, and the area is swarmed by essentially like a militia that's in this area in Kansas City. They seem to kind of control the city. And they're led by this character named Catherine, who's played by Melanie Lynskey. She is scouring the city for this person named Henry, who she thinks has sold out her brother to Fedra, who then beat him to death and killed him. So she is trying to find this person, Henry. And we also find out that Henry has a son named Sam. And this, like I said, nothing is directly told to you. You find out these through the conversation and things that are happening in the episode. Like you find out first that her brother was beaten to death, and you find out that Henry was the person that maybe sold him out, and then you find out later, just when she's exploring something and kind of putting some pieces together, that Henry has a son named Sam. Catherine is looking throughout the city for this person named Henry, and now she thinks that Joel and Ellie, she doesn't know who they are, but she knows that 3 of her people are dead. She thinks that Joel and Ellie were sent by Henry to wreak more havoc. She thinks that Henry is essentially her like white whale, her antagonist that she is like pursuing to no end. Also, we find out that there's something going on underneath the city. As they're exploring, looking for Henry, they open this room, and there is a room where the floor is kind of like collapsing in, and so the concrete is broken underneath. And while they're there, the concrete like pushes up, like something is either growing or trying to get out from under there. And they close that door, lock it, and they say, like, essentially, we'll deal with this after we find Henry, after we find these mercenaries that Henry called in. So that is happening. Joel and Ellie are trying to stay out of sight. They're trying to like get out of the city but not be detected. So they go to this building that is pretty tall. They climb up a few floors to try to get a good view of the city, to try to get an idea of where to go next. They end up sleeping in that building because they think they're pretty safe. And then Joel is woken up by Ellie calling him. She's like, Joel, Joel. And you see that there's a gun to Ellie's face. And you look up and you see this man. And then Joel looks straight ahead, and there's a gun to his face, and there's a kid holding a gun to him. And so you don't get told this, but it seems like this is Henry and Sam, and maybe Joel and Ellie inadvertently stumbled onto like one of their hideouts. And the episode ends. That's where it ends. And so presumably next episode, there will be a standoff. Maybe Joel and Ellie will kind of explain what happened to them. And I assume that Joel and Ellie will probably try to help Henry and Sam get out of there, or try to at least help or be forced to help Henry and Sam escape from Catherine, and that'll kind of pull everything together. But we don't know. We'll find out next week. I think next week the episode is on Friday. I saw a little pop-up that said the episode premieres on Friday night. So set your alarms, get in early, because Last of Us might be early. But that's The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 4. Check it out. It's a fantastic series. If you haven't gotten into it yet, you're only 4 episodes in. You can catch up quickly and definitely get on top of it now. So thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.